Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Salam alaikum, my second secondary students. Welcome to a new lesson for your Book the Traveler 3. And today, as you can see, we have listening, speaking, and writing. As usual, we start with what we will learn today. We have three objectives. Number one, practice listening to a radio interview, then reading the statements and guessing with whether they are true or false. Two, practice comparing and contrasting situations and discussing advantages and disadvantages. Three, practice writing based on the process of brainstorming. So for number one, I call on you to get ready and get your headphones because we're going to listen to a radio interview. Okay, after the listening, we're gonna say if the sentences are true or false. And number two, we will do some comparison between two things that they give advantages or disadvantages. As you know now, we have like what we're doing today, e-learning or digital learning, and we have the classical learning, which is what we do when we go to the classroom. This has advantages, this has disadvantages, this has positives and negatives, and also this has positive and negatives. And finally, we're going to do some writing, based on brainstorming. So we're going to think, write some tips, and then start our writing in a correct way. So if you take a look to the picture to the right, of course you're going to say this is maybe a college, and there is an instructor or a teacher at the end of the lesson, and they got a data show and a smart screen maybe there, and they're sitting in 5 rows and they're studying maybe something. So this is what we say, what we do actually even in schools, and this is the way we learn in our schools every day. Now people call it the classical way or the traditional way of learning, which is going to school, doing homework, doing tests and quizzes and all of this. Now we're going to listen, okay, and tick for true or false.
1A. Listening and speaking. Listening. B. Now listen to a radio interview with a professor of linguistics and check your answers in exercise A.
Good afternoon. Today I have with me Donald Turpin from East Durham University, and we are going to talk about English, the language which is fast becoming the world language. Welcome, Donald.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, how many people across the globe speak English?
The current figure is estimated to be about 1.5 billion people.
Really?
Yes, and if you consider the population of the world, which is 6.7 billion, that means approximately 1 in 4 people on the planet can speak English.
That's interesting. And I expect these numbers are growing.
Yes, English is the most taught language in the world, with over 1 billion people learning it.
Well, I often hear world leaders and politicians from different countries speaking in English. And major events like the Olympics are conducted in English.
Yes, if there is a world language, I think we can safely say it's English. Most of the world's communication is in English. In fact, 75% of all letters and postcards are in English.
And I expect it's the same for the internet.
Definitely. 80% of internet content is in English, and over 1/3 of the 1 billion web users are English language users.
And these users are not necessarily native English speakers, I understand.
Not at all. Many non-natives choose to write articles or blogs in English, so their work has a wider audience.
That makes sense.
However, research shows that the increasing number of Chinese web users means that in the future, most of the web could well be in Mandarin.
An interesting thought. Okay, let's talk more about the effect that English has.
So now we just listened to an interview with a linguistic professor talking about English. And we have from 1 to 7, and we need to write here T or F, true or false, according to what we have listened. I'm going to read for you first. 1 out of every 3 people in the world speaks English. Is that true or false? 2, there are just under 1 billion people learning English. 3, the English language is used at major sporting events around the world. 75 million letters and postcards in English are sent every day. More than 75% of the content of the internet is in English. And 6, very few non-native speakers of English write articles or blogs on the internet in English. And in the future, Mandarin, which is the Chinese language, might be used more than English on the internet. So I think number one, when he talked about the numbers that the world is, 6.7 billions, which makes the first sentence false, and the second sentence also false. So number one is false, number two is false, according to the numbers as we heard. But number three is true, number five is false, number six is false, and number seven is true. So false, false, true, false, and true. Now, if we move on to the second part, which is about speaking, so we need to run some speaking where we have advantages of disadvantages of something controversial. So before you do the speaking and saying your opinion, if you support something, you say the advantages, and if you don't support the other thing, you may say the advantages. But there are tips to help you speak in a good way. So when you are asked to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of something, try to express your opinion and remember to give reasons. If you say 1, 2, 3, you have to say why, and you have to give examples. Remember, this is just, speaking, so no answer is right or wrong, but it should be justified. You may like this and you may not like that, but either ways, you have to speak, express yourself, show your character, and always try to give reasons, and for your reasons, try to support your reasons with examples. Okay? Here is an example. The first photo to the right is a Saudi teacher with his Saudi friends, and this is what we do in our schools. This is a traditional way of learning. Students are studying, listening to their teacher. And the second way, which is the online teaching, or we call it digital learning, which is actually what we're doing now. I am giving you a lesson on the internet using, Ain website for Durus. So some people would, support the first kind of, learning. Others also support the second line of learning. So look at the pictures and talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each of the ways of learning a foreign language. So here they are listening to the teacher. They're maybe studying English. And here's a boy or a girl like you who are listening to me now, and they're studying over the internet. Of course, for the first, photo, there are advantages and disadvantages. And for the second photo or the second way of learning, there are advantages and disadvantages. Now, if you choose this or that, remember to give reasons why you chose this and give examples. And if you chose that, the second photo, why you chose this, you give examples and support your, choice with why. So for the first photo, many students say that a school is not only, about learning and books. It's also where you learn social skills, where you can make friends. The presence of the teacher is very, emotional and helpful and supportive. And also, students can build their own, as we said, friendships. And the school is not only, as I said again, the school is a set of environments. It's, psychological, moral, and even educational community. Some would say for the first photo that the disadvantages is that you have to come to school, you have to wake up in the morning, and sometimes you meet a, bad friend, and there's some things happen here and there. This is why people may choose the disadvantages for the first way of learning. And Also, they would say if there is a dust storm or if the storm, if there's something, a disaster happen, you can't go to school. Or maybe floods and sandstorms like what happens here in Saudi Arabia. But for the second part, they would say uh, digital education or e-learning is easier, is more personal, is sometimes they say is more effective. Others would say you don't have to go anywhere, and if there is anything happen, a dust storm or a flood or something like this, you still can use the internet. And if you like to wake up at 10, if you like to wake up at 12, and you don't have to see to do the homework mainly handwritten, you just send your homework via email or some software will handle this. And the disadvantages is that digital learning creates more isolation, more psychological problems, and also some people would say it's not efficient. It does not really create cooperative learning. It does not really create some kind of psychological healthy learning. Now we just talked, and I just gave you examples, and I said why if you choose picture A or picture B. Now let's read here some more examples. If you chose picture A, which is learning in a classroom, learning a foreign language in a classroom, you can say it's good for pair or group work where you can have cooperative and active learning. You can study physical education, you can play football, you can make friendships, and so on. Also, the student has the opportunity to actively interact with his or her fellow classmates. They enjoy lively discussions and practice oral skills, and they can grow their character and learn some sociable skills. Also, they contact with other students, increase motivation and competition among students. And the presence of the teacher is a great importance because students can ask questions and there is an immediate or spontaneous feedback. Now, if you choose picture B, which is a self-study through the use of the computers and other aids like dictionaries, references, books, Durus, Ain.com, etc., it's a self-study which is ideal for people who need to make fast progress. So you can depend on yourself. You don't have to go 7 hours to school. You can do 14 hours if you like, and you can have some kind of fast progress. Also, students can learn and study in a peaceful atmosphere and work at their own speed. Also, this is related to what I just said. Also, for some people, it's more convenient to organize studying time without the hassle and the stress of being in a class room at specific time. Some people would, just don't like to wake up at 6 a.m., go to school in the morning, and, they feel a little bit lazy. Now, if we just use this kind of discussion to go to something for writing, if I ask you all this kind of speaking and conversation that we just made, how about we put it in some kind of writing? So, when you write a paragraph in general, begin with an introductory sentence. The introductory sentence, we call it the introduction. Then develop, progress, the idea in the introductory sentence. Then explain it, give reasons, always give reasons and say why using because, 1, 2, 3, as, or the reason why is, etc. And if possible, give an example using for example, for instance, such as, like, and so on. Now, if I told you to think first and try to brainstorm, think of as many reasons as possible why people want to learn English. Why? We just heard too much conversation and interview about internet isn't, all in English, almost all in English. There are like 1 billion people speak English around the world. Another billion speak, trying to learn English, and English all the time. So we have some words here for you in the box. If you can talk about them. I always ask my students, why do you want to learn English, or why are you trying to learn English? Some would say, if you're an employee, you would say, I need it for my job, for my business. Most of the time, some jobs or some businesses would ask for a TOEFL test or for some IELTS, so you can prove that your English is good, so you can get a better chance to be hired, compared to someone who doesn't have English. Also, as a student, you need it for your exams, you need it to study. Also, some people, some students who graduate and, or maybe, they finish high school, they go to college, all their books in English, so they need to learn English so they can study medicine, engineering, all their books are taught in English, so they need English to study. Others would take it as a hobby. Some people would have some great respect for some, people when they ask them, how many languages can you speak? And we say, like, I speak 3 or 4 or 5 languages, for example. And we all need it if we decided to travel. So if you go anywhere in the world, you could go to, Canada, US, South America, even some places in Africa, in Europe, some in, Asia also. You may find some people can talk English and they can help you if you get lost, or if you need some directions, so they can answer you in English. Also, people sometimes are sent by the government or by their companies abroad to get some master's degree or to get some conference or some kind of workshop, so they need English to go there because most of these conferences and workshops are presented in English. Also, as for the internet, most of the internet, as I said, most of it is in English. And also, finally, which is not mentioned here, students would love to learn English because they do some kind of online games, video games, so they can use English. And also, if you have, video games in the house or smart TVs, also you need English so you can learn or you can be a great noob or player on the internet, or as you play inside your house with your friends on video games or using video games. So if we just sum up and squeeze our brains into writing now, we just talk too much. You can still use this kind of brainstorming to imagine and talk for yourself silently and these tips, and let's put these ideas and tips into introduction, body, and conclusion. So now if I ask you to write a paragraph explaining why you want to learn English. Now you brainstorm, you write some tips, you start with introductory and do some body in the middle, and then in the conclusion you say your opinion, or you just summarize the idea of your writing. Here's an example. Okay, I suggest you wrote this. I'm learning English for job purposes. I work as a personal assistant for a large import-export company. Since English is an international language, we use it to communicate with our clients in other countries. For example, I have to send emails to our clients or speak to them on the phone in English. And that is a very good writing. Why you're learning English? I'm learning English for job purposes. So you started with an introductory why you learn English, and you give some development for your writing. You work as a personal assistant, so you need English in your job, and you give examples why you need English, because you send emails and you talk to your clients. So as we reach the end of the lesson today, let's remember what we learned today. So when you're asked to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of something, express your opinion and remember to give reasons. And no answer, this is just, different points of view. No answer is right or wrong, but it should be justified. And if possible, you express your opinion and you give reasons and examples also. And we talked about writing. So when you write a paragraph, remember to begin with an introductory sentence, then develop the idea in the introductory sentence, explain it, give reasons using, words like because, as, the reason why, etc. And if possible, which is good for you, give an example using, for example, for instance, such as, or like, etc., etc. These are the resources and the references for you if you like to do some extra activity, and for more lesson and information, you can visit our website, which is ain.edu.com, and you can follow us on Twitter to know more information and news about Ain or Durus. And here's the number if you have any question for any technical help. Thank you all for watching this. Until I see you again, good luck for your test, and Assalamu alaikum.